Ambassador Kim Dae adjusted his formal suit one last time as he stood outside the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber. The metal felt cold against his palms, and he could hear the buzzing of hundreds of alien voices beyond. Today would change everything. He had been Earth's representative for 8 years now. 8 years of sitting in that human-sized chair while towering creatures from across the galaxy made decisions about his people's future. 8 years of polite smiles while being called the pet species behind closed doors. 8 years of watching other races claim credit for human discoveries and innovations. The doors opened with a soft hiss, revealing the enormous crystal chamber that housed the Galactic Council. Beings of every shape and size filled the floating seats arranged in perfect circles around the central speaking platform. Some looked like walking trees with glowing leaves. Others appeared as clouds of gas held together by mechanical suits. A few resembled giant insects with too many eyes and clicking mandibles. Kim Dae walked to his assigned spot, passing the seats of species that had been spacefaring for thousands of years. They barely glanced at him. To them, humans were still children playing with toys they didn't fully understand. "The session begins," announced Counselor Vexmari, a creature that looked like liquid mercury formed into a vaguely humanoid shape. "Today we vote on Resolution 847 Alpha regarding human territorial expansion." Kim Dae's jaw tightened. He had read the resolution. It would limit humanity to just 3 star systems, claiming that humans were too aggressive and unpredictable to be trusted with more space. Never mind that humans had peacefully colonized dozens of worlds. Never mind that human doctors had saved millions of alien lives. Never mind that human engineers had solved problems that had puzzled other species for centuries. The debate began, and Kim Dae listened to speaker after speaker explain why humans needed to be controlled. The Clethri delegate spoke about human military buildup, ignoring that every human weapon was designed for defense. The Altarian representative worried about human cultural influence, as if sharing music and art was somehow dangerous. "Humans reproduce too quickly," said the Zen-3 council member, its insect-like head tilting as it spoke. "They spread across worlds like a plague. We must contain them before they become a threat to establish galactic order." Kim Dae's hands formed fists in his lap. A plague. That's what they thought of human families, human children, human dreams of exploring the stars. The Vorthack delegate floated forward, its translucent form shimmering with what humans had learned to recognize as condescension. "We do not wish to harm our young human friends. We simply believe they need guidance. Perhaps in a few more centuries, when they have learned proper galactic citizenship, we can revisit their territorial limits." A few more centuries. Kim Dae almost laughed. These beings spoke of time as if decades meant nothing, as if human lives could be paused while aliens decided their worth. "The vote begins now," Counselor Vexmari announced. "All in favor of Resolution 847 Alpha?" Kim Dae watched his seat after seat lit up with approval. The vote counter climbed rapidly. 100, 200, 400, 600. Only a handful of species voted against the resolution, mostly newer council members who remembered what it felt like to be dismissed by their elders. Resolution 847 Alpha passes with 847 votes in favor and 23 against, the counselor announced. Humanity's territorial expansion is hereby limited to 3 star systems, with additional restrictions on military development and population growth. The chamber buzzed with satisfied murmurs. Another problem solved, another young species put in its proper place. Kim Dae stood slowly, his movement causing a ripple of attention through the chamber. These beings were used to humans accepting their decisions quietly, grateful for whatever scraps of independence they were allowed. "Counselor Vexmari," Kim Dae said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. "I request permission to make a statement on behalf of the United Earth Government." "Permission granted," the counselor replied, probably expecting a formal thank you or plea for reconsideration. Kim Dae walked to the center platform, looking up at the hundreds of alien faces watching him. Some showed mild interest, others clear boredom. None of them suspected what was coming. "The United Earth Government hereby formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately," Kim Dae announced. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the constant hum of life support systems seemed to pause. This withdrawal is permanent and final. Kim Day continued. All human personnel will leave council space within 72 standard hours. All joint research projects are terminated. All trade agreements are void. All military cooperation ends today. Now the chamber erupted. Aliens turned to each other, their various forms of communication, creating a chaos of sounds and lights. Some laughed, thinking this was an empty threat. Others looked concerned, though Kim Day doubted they understood why. Ambassador Kim, the Vorthak delegate, said, its voice dripping with what it probably thought was wisdom. Surely this is just an emotional response. Your species cannot survive without council protection and guidance. You need us. Kim Day smiled for the first time in months. It was not a diplomatic smile. We shall see, he said simply. He turned and walked toward the exit, ignoring the shouted questions and demands from hundreds of alien voices. Behind him, the council chamber descended into chaos as representatives tried to understand what had just happened. They would learn soon enough. Trade Minister Yelnara stared at her computer screen in complete confusion. The numbers made no sense. For the past 25 years, cargo ships had moved through her sector with almost perfect timing. Ships arrived exactly when they were supposed to. Goods reached their destinations on schedule. The whole system worked like a beautiful machine. Now, 3 weeks after the humans left, everything was falling apart. Minister, her assistant said, walking into her office with a worried expression. The shipping delays are getting worse. We're now running 4 days behind schedule on all major routes. Yelnara's 6 arms moved frantically across multiple keyboards as she tried to understand what was happening. She pulled up the logistics program that controlled all the trade routes in her sector. The program had been running perfectly for decades, automatically calculating the best paths for ships to take, predicting traffic patterns, and avoiding problems before they happened. When did we install this system? She asked her assistant. Let me check. It was upgraded about 26 years ago. The Altarians claimed they had improved it using their advanced mathematics. Yelnara dug deeper into the program's code. What she found made her stomach drop. Hidden deep in the programming were human mathematical formulas, human logic patterns, and human problem-solving methods. The Altarians had taken human work and simply put their name on it. Get me the Altarian Trade Council immediately, she ordered. When the Altarian representative appeared on her screen, Yelnara wasted no time. Your logistics system is failing. Our entire trade network is collapsing. The Altarian's tentacles waved dismissively. Impossible. Our mathematics are perfect. Perhaps your people are simply not intelligent enough to operate the system properly. Then explain why it worked perfectly until the humans left 3 weeks ago. The Altarian's tentacles stopped moving. The humans had nothing to do with our system. Really? Because I'm looking at human code signatures throughout the entire program. This isn't Altarian mathematics at all. It's human work that you've been taking credit for. The screen went dark. The Altarians had ended the call. Meanwhile, on the medical station orbiting Kepler 442, Dr. Zintar faced her own crisis. Patients were arriving with conditions that should have been easy to treat, but somehow all her standard treatments were failing. Nurse Colmet said, the Terran syndrome treatment isn't working on the Vorthak patient. Dr. Zintar looked at the medical chart. Terran syndrome was a condition that affected multiple species, but the treatment had been developed by Altarian doctors 15 years ago. It worked by combining different medical approaches in a very specific way. Try the backup treatment protocol, she ordered. An hour later, Nurse Colmet returned with bad news. The backup protocol isn't working either. None of our hybrid treatments are working. Dr. Zintar spent the next several hours reviewing medical files, and what she discovered horrified her. The breakthrough treatments that had revolutionized medicine across the galaxy weren't actually Altarian discoveries. They were human medical techniques that had been quietly shared and then claimed by other species. The human doctors who had worked on the station hadn't just been assistants. They had been the ones actually developing the treatments, training the alien doctors, and solving the difficult cases. Without them, the medical staff was lost. across the galaxy, similar problems were appearing everywhere. Commander Veltar of the Galactic Defense Network received an emergency report that made him question everything he thought he knew about military strategy. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "our response time to pirate attacks has increased by 300%. We're losing battles that should be easy victories." "How is that possible?" "We're using the same combat strategies we've always used." "That's just it, sir. We investigated our tactical computer systems. It turns out that 43% of our most successful battle strategies were originally human innovations. The humans have been quietly providing us with tactical solutions for decades." Commander Veltar pulled up the battle records from the past year. Every major victory had involved strategies that were now failing without human input. The combat computers were still using the old programs, but they weren't being updated or improved anymore. "Sir," another officer interrupted, "we have a bigger problem. Our weapon systems are starting to malfunction. The targeting computers are producing errors, and the shield generators are operating at only 60% efficiency." "What's causing it?" "Human-designed components throughout our entire military infrastructure. Without their maintenance and updates, everything is slowly breaking down." On research stations throughout the galaxy, scientists were making similar discoveries. Dr. Quintal, the hegemony's most respected physicist, stared at equations that had made perfect sense just a month ago, but now seemed like meaningless symbols. "How long have we been building our theories on human mathematical foundations?" she asked her research team. "According to these records, at least 40 years, her assistant replied. "The humans shared their mathematical insights freely, but other species published the research under their own names. And now we can't understand our own work. The human mathematical framework was holding everything together." All across the galaxy, the same pattern was emerging. For decades, humans had been quietly supporting galactic civilization. They had solved problems, shared innovations, and provided the invisible foundation that kept everything running smoothly. And now they were gone. The Galactic Council had dismissed humanity as primitive and unimportant. They were about to learn just how wrong they had been. Communications Officer Lee June pressed buttons frantically on her control panel as another red warning light appeared on her screen. The quantum communication relay station that connected 15 different star systems was failing, and she had no idea how to fix it. "Sector 7 just went completely dark," she reported to her Altarian supervisor, Commander Zexval. "That's the 4th sector this week. We lost contact with over 60 worlds." Commander Zexval's tentacles twitched nervously as he studied the reports. 6 months had passed since the humans left, and the galaxy's communication network was breaking down piece by piece. What had once been a perfect system connecting thousands of worlds was now full of gaps and failures. "What's causing the interference?" he asked. Lee June pulled up the technical readings. "The quantum noise levels are increasing everywhere. Without the harmonic dampeners, the signals are getting scrambled before they can reach their destinations." "Harmonic dampeners? What are you talking about?" Lee June's fingers moved across her keyboard, bringing up system files that hadn't been accessed in years. What she found made her face turn pale. "Sir, the dampening technology that prevents quantum interference. It was designed by humans. Dr. Sarah Kim developed it 28 years ago. We've been using it in every major communication hub across the galaxy." Commander Zexval's tentacles stopped moving entirely. "That's impossible. The Zenthri developed that technology. They won the Galactic Science Prize for it." "Look at this," Lee June said, pointing to her screen. "The original patent applications, the research notes, even the mathematical proofs. All of it has human signatures. The Zenthri just manufactured the devices and claimed the credit." The truth was becoming clear. For decades, human scientists had been solving the fundamental problems that plagued interstellar communication. They had shared their solutions freely, allowing other species to build better communication networks. Those species had then taken full credit for the innovations. Now, without human maintenance and updates, the entire system was collapsing. On the fortress world of Kefvar, General Mordin watched in horror as his most advanced weapon systems shut down one by one. The targeting computers that had made his forces legendary across the galaxy were displaying error messages he had never seen before. "General," his chief engineer reported, "the predictive targeting system has completely failed. Our hit accuracy has dropped from 94% to 31%. How is that possible? This system has worked perfectly for 15 years. The engineer pulled up diagnostic reports on his tablet. "Sir, I've been analyzing the system's core programming. The predictive algorithms that calculate enemy movement patterns. They're based on human behavioral mathematics. Without regular updates from human programmers, the system can't adapt to new situations." General Mordin felt sick. His entire military reputation was built on weapon systems that secretly relied on human intelligence. Every major victory his forces had won was possible only because humans had been quietly providing tactical support. "How many of our systems are compromised?" he asked. "All of them, sir. Every significant weapon we have contains human-designed components. The shield generators, the targeting computers, the navigation systems, even our communications equipment. Without human technical support, everything is breaking down." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out on every world. Medical scanners that had revolutionized healthcare were producing increasingly unreliable results. The quantum resonance technology that powered them had been a human invention, shared freely with alien doctors who had claimed it as their own discovery. Transportation systems that moved billions of beings across planets every day were experiencing mysterious malfunctions. The traffic control algorithms that prevented accidents and managed flow were failing because they had been designed by human engineers who were no longer available to maintain them. Even simple things like water purification systems and atmospheric processors were having problems. Humans had improved these technologies on thousands of worlds, making small but crucial modifications that other species had never fully understood. Trade Coordinator Sean Guillemot sat in his hidden office, watching as desperate alien governments tried every possible way to contact Earth. They sent messages through diplomatic channels, emergency frequencies, and even old radio transmissions. Nothing worked. The quantum beacons that had connected human colonies to Earth had gone completely silent. It was as if humanity had simply vanished from the universe, taking all their knowledge and expertise with them. "Any responses from Earth?" asked his assistant, a young Vorthack who still believed the humans might come back. "Nothing," Sean Guillemot replied. "No acknowledgement of any messages. No response to emergency humanitarian requests. No participation in crisis management meetings. They've gone completely dark." What the aliens didn't realize was that humanity's silence was intentional. For 50 years, humans have been quietly documenting every slight, every dismissal, every time their contributions were stolen or ignored. They had prepared for this moment carefully, methodically, and completely. The humans hadn't just left the Galactic Council. They had withdrawn from galactic civilization entirely, taking with them all the invisible threads that had been holding everything together. As power grids failed, communication networks collapsed, and essential systems broke down across hundreds of worlds, the terrible truth became clear. The galaxy hadn't just lost Earth's membership in their council. They had lost the foundation upon which their entire civilization was built. Captain Nam Sung carefully piloted his stealth ship to the debris field where New Sol had once been a thriving human colony. The Council search fleet had spent 3 months tracking down this location, following old trade records and fuel purchase logs. Now that they had found it, the sight before them was deeply unsettling. "Any signs of fighting?" asked Dr. Wexera, the Council's lead investigator, as she studied her scanner readings. "None at all," Captain Nam replied, bringing the ship closer to the abandoned structures. "The buildings are intact. The power systems are still running. Even the gardens look like they were watered recently. It's like everyone just disappeared." The boarding party that entered the colony found something that made their investigation even more mysterious. Personal belongings were left behind in perfect order. Meals were still on tables, though long since spoiled. Children's toys were arranged neatly in bedrooms. Nothing had been damaged or destroyed. This was an evacuation under emergency conditions, Dr. Wexer observed as she examined a family home. This was planned down to the smallest detail. They took only what they absolutely needed and left everything else exactly where it belonged. Captain Nam checked the colony's computer systems. They were still operational, but completely locked against any external access. Automated systems continued to maintain the facilities, but no one could modify or control them. 47 colonies, he said quietly. We found 47 abandoned human settlements, and every single one looks exactly like this. The same pattern had repeated across dozens of star systems. Human colonies that had existed for decades were completely empty but perfectly preserved. No signs of violence, no evidence of panic, no clues about where the inhabitants had gone. On the Council investigation ship, Intelligence Director Kolmesh studied reports that painted an impossible picture. Her team had been tracking human movements for the past year, and what they had discovered was terrifying in its scope and organization. They'd been planning this for at least 50 years, she announced to the senior council members gathered around the holographic display. Look at these financial records. Humans have been slowly liquidating assets, converting resources, and transferring wealth through incredibly complex networks. The display showed a web of transactions that spanned decades. Humans have been quietly selling property, closing businesses, and moving money through thousands of seemingly unrelated accounts. To outside observers, it had looked like normal economic activity. In reality, it was the largest planned migration in galactic history. What about their population records? Asked Counselor Vexmari. That's the most disturbing part, Kolmesh replied. We estimate there were approximately 3 billion humans living in Council space. Transportation records show gradual population transfers over decades, disguised as tourism, student exchanges, trade missions, and family visits. They never moved large groups at once, so no one noticed a pattern. She brought up another display showing shipping manifests and passenger logs. They used their own merchant fleets, but also booked passage on hundreds of different alien transport companies. Small groups of humans traveling to vacation destinations or business conferences that never actually existed. The scope of the deception was breathtaking. Humans had created fake businesses, fictional events, and imaginary destinations to justify their movements. They had paid for transportation to remote systems that most aliens had never heard of, then simply vanished once they arrived. Lieutenant Commander Park monitored the Council search fleets from her hidden observation post in the Kepler system. She watched as alien ships desperately scanned empty space, looking for any trace of human presence. They would find nothing. The human exodus hadn't been to nearby systems or hidden colonies within Council space. It had been to an entirely separate region of the galaxy that most Council species didn't even know existed. For decades, human exploration ships have been quietly mapping uncharted territories, identifying suitable worlds, and establishing supply networks far beyond the reach of galactic civilization. Any signs they're getting close? Asked their communications officer. Not even remotely, Parkun replied. They're still searching the outer rim territories. They have no idea we've been building a completely parallel civilization for half a century. Back on Station Nexus 7, Emergency Counselor Vexterra addressed what remained of the Galactic Council. The great chamber that had once housed 900 different species now echoed with emptiness. Fewer than 200 delegates remained. We must face the reality of our situation, Vexterra announced to the sparse gathering. We have lost not just Earth's membership in this council. We have lost every single human being in our space. 3 billion people have simply vanished without a trace. The remaining delegates shifted uncomfortably. Some species had abandoned the council entirely to search for humanity on their own. Others had withdrawn into isolation as their own civilizations crumbled without human support. A few had even collapsed into civil war as resources became scarce and essential systems failed. Our investigation teams report the same findings everywhere, Vexterra continued. Perfect evacuations, no evidence of destination, and no response to any attempts at communication. It's as if humanity has erased itself from our galaxy. What the Council didn't understand was that humanity hadn't erased itself. They had simply moved beyond the reach of those who had never appreciated their true value. Somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, 3 billion humans were building something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. Captain Han Ji-won stood on the bridge of her ship, looking at the massive space station that had once been the center of galactic civilization. Station Nexus 7 looked like a ghost town now. Most of its docking bays were empty, and the few ships that remained belonged to species struggling just to keep their basic systems running. 3 years had passed since humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council. 3 years of watching from a distance as the galaxy slowly collapsed without them. Captain, her communications officer said, "We're receiving docking permission. They sound desperate." Han Ji-won nodded. She had expected this. The Terran Confederation had been monitoring the situation across former Council space, and the reports were not encouraging. Of the 900 species that had once filled the Council chambers, fewer than 50 remained. The rest had either destroyed themselves in civil wars, retreated into isolation, or simply vanished as their civilizations crumbled. As her ship docked at the station, Han Ji-won noticed how empty the corridors were. Once, these halls had been filled with thousands of beings from across the galaxy, all working together on trade, science, and diplomacy. Now she saw only a few maintenance workers and scattered groups of aliens who looked lost and confused. The council chamber itself was shocking to see. The enormous crystal room that had once housed hundreds of delegates now felt like a tomb. Only about 50 beings were present, sitting in scattered groups across the vast space. Many of them looked sick or malnourished, clear signs that their home worlds were struggling. "Welcome, Captain," said Counselor Vex Mari, one of the few original council members still alive. His liquid mercury form seemed dimmer than before, lacking the confident shine Han Ji-won. "Remember from old recordings, we are honored by your presence. Perhaps we can discuss humanity's return to the Council." Han Ji-won walked to the center platform where Ambassador Kim Dae had once announced humanity's withdrawal. The symbolism was intentional, and every alien in the room understood it. "I bring greetings from the Terran Confederation," she announced, her voice echoing in the mostly empty chamber. "I am not here to negotiate our return. I am here to deliver a message and extend an invitation." A ripple of whispers ran through the sparse gathering. Some aliens leaned forward hopefully, while others seemed to shrink back in fear. "The Terran Confederation now encompasses 400 star systems," Han Ji-won continued. "We have formed alliances with 73 different species that your council once dismissed as unsuitable or primitive. Together, we have developed technologies and solutions that far exceed anything that existed in former council space." She activated a holographic display that showed star maps unknown to the Council. The territory controlled by the Terran Confederation was enormous, stretching across regions of the galaxy that most Council species had never even explored. Dr. Bae Su-jin, representing the Confederation Science Division, stepped forward to explain their achievements. "The species you call primitive were never lacking in intelligence. They simply thought differently than you preferred. The Corvani taught us to merge biology with quantum mechanics. The Thresh-Tar showed us mathematics that work across multiple dimensions. The Yilneth helped us understand how to manipulate time itself." The aliens in the chamber stared in amazement at the display. Technologies that seemed like magic, scientific breakthroughs that solved problems they didn't even know existed, and levels of cooperation that the old council had never achieved. "But how?" asked the Vorthag delegate, its translucent form shimmering with confusion. "These species had barely developed space flight when we last encountered them." "That's exactly the problem," Han Ji-won replied. "You encountered them, decided they weren't advanced enough to be worth your time, and then ignored them completely. You never bothered to learn what they might teach you. You were so convinced that age equals wisdom that you missed opportunities for growth." She gestured to the empty seats around them. "Look where that attitude has brought you. Your council is dead. Your civilizations are crumbling, and your technology has stagnated because you rejected the very people who were holding it all together." The Zenthari delegate, one of the species that had been most vocal about restricting humanity, spoke up nervously. "Surely some accommodation can be reached. The galaxy needs human knowledge, human innovation. We were wrong to limit your expansion, but—" "The galaxy you built is dying," Han Ji-won interrupted, "but that doesn't mean life itself is dying. It just means that life is finding new ways to grow when it's not held back by those who mistake tradition for truth. She pulled out a small device and placed it on the speaking platform. This contains a communication frequency for the Terran Confederation. Any species that wishes to approach us as equal partners is welcome to make contact. We are not interested in rejoining a council that sees other beings as either superior elders or inferior children. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Humanity wasn't coming back to save them. Instead, they were offering an alternative for those ready to start over with a completely different approach. "We learned something important during our time in your council," Han Ji-won said as she prepared to leave. "The greatest power doesn't come from demanding respect or trying to control others. It comes from walking away from those who can't recognize your true value and building something better with those who can." As the human delegation left the chamber, they walked past Ambassador Kim Dae's old chair, still sitting empty after 3 years. It had become a symbol of everything the council had lost when they chose pride over partnership. The age of human submission was over. The age of human leadership had begun.